So for the second verse of the on Absolute Truth, is saying that there are 12 limbs of existence: the aggregate, the realm, and the world that are always changing. We have spoke about 5 aggregate, 5 skandhas. Which is form, feeling, perceptions, mental formation, and consciousness. And the 12 ayatanas. Ayatanas, which is eyes, nose, tongue, eyes, ear, eye, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And the object of ears is a sound, form, smell, taste, touch, and object of mind. You see, we don't call it reality. We call it object of mind. And the other word, the word is Dharma. Dharma. Dharma is object of mind. As far as the teaching of the Buddha is also Dharma, but with a capital D, Dharma. And when Dharma is written with a small d, it means just things, object of your mind. And you can say that the 5 skandha is there, the 12 ayatana realms is there. But looking deeply into the 5 skandhas and the 12 ayatana, you don't see itself. And also, if you look into the consciousness that is produced by the contact between ear and sound, eyes and form, nose and smell, it's like this is sight, eyes consciousness, eyes consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mind consciousness. So together we have 18. It's called the 18 dhatu. The Chinese says yuri. So when you observe the 5 skandhas, the 12 ayatana the 18 dhatus, you see them, but you don't see any self hidden behind them. Suppose you look at the thought, you see the thought is well there, but there is no thinker hidden behind the thought. So let us go back to the first verse. There is absolutely no subject. In fact, subject here is the owner. We can translate as owner, proprietor. No one who owns this body. No boss, no owner, no proprietor of this body, no proprietor of these feelings, no proprietor of these perceptions. So first, there is no owner, there is no subject. Second, there is no agent. Agent is actor. You can translate agent as actor also. The one who produces an action. There is action, but there is no actor. Looking deeply, you can see the action as existing, but you cannot see an actor separated from the action. The act may be good or bad, wholesome or unwholesome. It will result in suffering or happiness. But there is no actor that produces that act. And then also there is no feeler, there is no one to receive the fruit of action, In the Chinese, thọ giả, tác giả. There is no one who is the actor and the one who receives the fruit of the action. There is action and the retribution of that action, but there is no actor and there is no one who is receiving the retribution. That is the ultimate truth. So we should practice looking deeply in such a way and remove the notion of self. Suppose we say the cloud is floating. The floating is an act, right? And we think that the cloud is the actor. But do you think that there is an actor hidden behind the action of floating? There is a floater or not? There is something that is floated, but is there any floater? Suppose you say it's raining. There is rain. Is there any rainer behind? When we say it rains, it rains. This is the action. We think that this is an action, a verb. And a verb always needs a noun, a subject and a verb. But what is this it? Or is no? Or when we say the wind blows, the wind blows. So there is an act of blowing, and the wind is the actor. The wind is the blower. But looking deeply, you see only the wind. The wind and the act of blowing is the same. If the air does not blow, it's not the wind. If the air stays at the same place, it's not the wind. That is only the air. So it sounds a little bit funny to say that there is the wind as an actor, and the wind is blowing. A wind that is not blowing is not the wind at all. So the fact is that there is wind. You don't have to say blow. The wind is enough. The wind is the blowing. When neurologists in neuroscience, when they observe our brain, they see a multitude of neurons. The neurons are interacting with each other, always communicating with each other, and the neurons together produce thoughts, notions and feelings. And we do not see any neuron that play the role of the conductor. There's no self. All neurons come together, work together, and there is the birth of a thought, a feeling, and so on. There is absolutely no self. In the eyes of scientists, we can touch the truth of no self. We have a very nice exercise of practice of breathing. And it guides us slowly into the insight of no self. And I think those of us who do not know that exercise should learn. It's so pleasant. You get a lot of pleasant feelings, joy, and peace while practicing that exercise. And you can get the insight of no self also. It goes like this. Let the Buddha breathe. Let the Buddha sit. I don't have to breathe. I don't have to sit. That is the first part of the exercise. You invite the Buddha in you to breathe for you and to sit for you. And you know that the Buddha is in you because you have a potentiality of becoming a Buddha. You have the seat of mindfulness, concentration, and insight in you. So there is a ground in order for you to do that, to invite the Buddha to sit and breathe for you. And you know that once the Buddha breathes, the quality of his breathing should be very good, excellent. And when he sits, he always sits upright and relaxed. So you allow the Buddha to breathe and sit for you, and you just enjoy. Very nice. And the Buddha never failed to do that for you when you ask him to do so. Very nice. One day I found myself in a difficult situation. It was in South Korea, Seoul. We gathered in order to do walking meditation. 1,000 people came and surrounded us. And most of them have a camcorder. I saw a jungle of camera camcorder. And there's no path to walk at all. Everyone likes to take pictures. So there's no way to do walking meditation. And Thầy had to ask the Buddha to help. Dear Buddha, you walk for me. I surrender. I give up. And right away the Buddha began his first step. Very mindful, very majestuously. And suddenly the crowd began to allow space for the Buddha to walk. It's like a miracle. If I try myself, I would not be able to do so. So I asked the Buddha to do, and he took action right away. So from now on, if you find yourself in difficulties, ask the Buddha in you to do it for you, and he will do it. We have to get faith in the Buddha in you. When you find yourself in a difficult situation, ask him, ask her to come out and do it for you. And now, this is easy. Let the Buddha breathe. I'm a little bit lazy. Let the Buddha sit. I enjoy breathing. I enjoy breathing and sitting. And then the next gatha, Buddha is breathing, Buddha is sitting, I enjoy breathing, I enjoy sitting. And then we come to the third verse. Buddha is breathing, Buddha is sitting, I am breathing, I am sitting. And you and the Buddha in the beginning are separate. The Buddha enjoy, the Buddha practice, and you enjoy the outcome of practice. And then you come closer, Buddha is breathing, Buddha is sitting, I am breathing, I am sitting, you get close. There is breathing, there is sitting. No one is breathing, no one is sitting. And you see that the sitting is right there, the breathing is right there. And because this breathing is of a superb quality, because when the Buddha breathes, the quality of breathing is superb. And when the Buddha sits, the quality of his sitting is perfect. And that is why you recognize the presence of the Buddha. The presence of the Buddha is recognized by the quality of breathing and the quality of sitting. Otherwise, how you recognize a Buddha? Since the quality of breathing and sitting is perfect, you know that the Buddha is there. There is sitting, there is breathing. There is no one sitter and sitting, there is no one breathing. And you touch the self, the truth of non-self. everything that is there, the real thing that is there is the breathing and the sitting. You can be sure of that. The breathing is there, is going on. The sitting is going on, and with high quality. And there is no Buddha outside of that sitting and of breathing. And because of the high quality of breathing and sitting, you know that the Buddha is there. The Buddha doesn't exist outside of the breathing and the sitting. There is only the breath and the sitting. There is no breather, there is no sitter. You have to recognize the Buddha in his action, in his way of doing things. And when you breathe mindfully, happily, joyfully, and freely, well, that is the Buddha. And you can touch the Buddha in that way. You don't look for a Buddha outside of these kind of things. When there is a high quality of breathing, of sitting, when there is a kind of acting that is full of mindfulness and compassion, you know that the Buddha is there. There is no Buddha outside of these things. So skandhas, ayatanas, and dhatus, they are there. But the self itself separated from that is something that does not really exist. Buddha is breathing, Buddha is sitting. I am breathing, I am sitting. There is the breathing, there is sitting, there is no one breathing, there is no one sitting. Joy in the breathing, peace in the sitting. Joy is the sitting, peace is the breathing. So you cannot find joy and peace and happiness outside of the sitting, outside of the breathing. And this is a very nice exercise of mindful breathing that you can use in the sitting position, in the walking position, or in the lying position. So when René Descartes said that I think, therefore I am, he tried to demonstrate something. He tried to convince you of something, that the self exists. Je pense, donc je suis. I think, therefore I am. This is an argument. That since the thinking is there, there must be a thinker. So he wants to prove that the self exists because the action is there. If there is action, there must be an actor. And this is the opposite of the teaching of the Buddha. In the Buddha's teaching, there is the thinking, but there is no thinker. Thinking without a thinker, thought without thinker. You don't need a thinker in order for thought to be possible. You don't need a rainer in order for rain to be possible. You do not need a blower for the wind to blow behind. But we have that kind of deep belief that there is a self that continues always unchanged, while everything else is changing. 5 skandhas, 12 ayatanas, 18 dhatus, they are always changing every moment, but there is something hidden behind all of that and continue to be the same, and that is the self. In the teaching of Buddha, such a thing doesn't exist. So in the conventional realm of truth, we think that if there is thought, there must be a thinker. If there is rain, there must be a rainer. But when we observe, we see that we don't need a owner, we don't need an actor, we don't need a receiver of the contribution. Tác giả, thọ giả. There is a sutra, that is Sutra 300 of the Samyutta Agama. Look whether we have that in the booklet. Đại Không Pháp Kinh. Maybe not. The Buddha was going in an arm round with the monks, and he was stopped by a practitioner of another tradition, that is school of practice, ascetic practitioner. And those practitioners, they don't wear any clothes. They want to live like in nature. They don't need clothing. And he stopped the Buddha and he wanted to ask the Buddha something about the teaching of Buddha. The Buddha said that, well, it's not convenient that we are on an arm round. But he insisted 3 times. And he said that, well, my question is very short. So the Buddha accepted to answer his question. What do you say, Gautama? Is the one who acts, the one who receives the result. Is the one who acts is the same with the one who receives the fruit of action. Suppose you do something today, and tomorrow or after tomorrow, who is going to be the one who receives? That person who reap the fruit of action is the same person or another person. And the Buddha said, I do not answer this question. I do not answer this question. This is not a good question. And I do not answer this question. And then he pressed. In that way, you think that the one who acts and the one who receives the fruit of action are two different persons? And the Buddha said, no, I don't answer that question either. The first question is whether the one who acts, the one who receives the fruit of action is one. The Buddha said, I don't answer. And he asked the second question. That means that you say that the one who acts and the one who receives the retribution are two persons? The Buddha said no. The ascetic said to the Buddha, what does this mean? When I ask, is the one who acts and the one who experiences the result is the same? You say that that's not to be answered. And when I ask, is the one that acts and another one experience, you say that you cannot answer. What does that mean? And this is the answer of the Buddha to that question. To declare that the one who acts is the same with the one who experiences is to fall in a view called eternalist view. And to declare that the one who acts and the one who experiences the result is not the same person, that is to fall into the annihilationist view. Eternalism and annihilism. Teaching the essence, teaching the Dharma, I avoid these two extremes. Keeping the middle way, I teach the Dharma. And this sutra shows us that there is that pair of views that should be transcended, the same and the different. The one who acts and the one who is receiving the fruit of action, they are neither the same nor a different person. So sameness and otherness are two notions that you have to remove. And this is another aspect of the teaching because when we observe reality as it is, we see that everything is changing all the time. And there is nothing that can remain exactly the same. So there is no self at all. Self should be something that remains the same all the time. And if you believe that the self is something that remains the same all the time, you fall into a kind of view called eternalism. And if you say the opposite, you fall into the trap of annihilism. So there are 41 gathas. There are 41 gathas in the list of gathas, Paramatta gathas. And let us go to the last one. Page 39. Living beings is the name of a continuous stream. There is a stream, there is a continuum. When you talk of living beings, looking deeply, you don't see any permanent self inside of living beings. You should train yourself to see living beings as streams. There is a continuum. Living beings is the name of a continuous stream. And all the phenomena as object of perception are only signs. Therefore, there is no real change of birth into death and death into birth, and no one who realizes nirvana. This is also about removing the notion of self. We talk that salvation, emancipation, liberation, in terms of self. And the question we ask is that who is caught in the course of transmigration, who is going through birth and death. If you speak of reincarnation, if you speak of transmigration, if you speak of rebirth, you must suppose that it is a self in order to go through birth and death. But the fact is only there is a stream, there is a combination of birth and death. But we don't need an agent, a subject, a self in order to go through. And there is a possibility of getting out of birth and death. There is possibility of being liberated. There is a possibility of touching nirvana. But there is no self in order to enter nirvana. So, birth and death is possible without a self. And nirvana is possible also without a self. And that is why removing the notion of self is very crucial in this. Because self, when you are caught in the notion of self, you are caught at the same time in the notion of what is not self. Because the self must be the opposite of what is not self. When you take something, you single it out and you call it self, and the rest will be the opposite of self. So you are still caught in the double grasping, self and non-self. So the first notion you have to remove is the notion of self. And all Buddhist teaching is centered on this, removing the notion of self. And that does not mean that that life is not there, and the streams of living are not there.